Greetings from Washington, D.C. Peter Thomas here from NAAOP with three major issues to bring you up to date on. Number one is the physician documentation problem that the O&P community finds itself embroiled in for more than a year and a half now. As a result of the O&P policy forum that occurred about 2 weeks ago, there was a letter generated from Congressman Guthrie and Congresswoman Duckworth that will be signed by as many House and Senate members as possible who support the letter, and it will be directed to CMS Administrator or Acting Administrator Tavener, which would request that she find some way to create a reasonable alternative to the current situation involving physician documentation, so that O&P providers can provide care to beneficiaries without risking having those funds recouped when O&P claims are paid. Simply based on the fact that the physician did not keep appropriate or detailed enough records. We're working with CMS to try to resolve this issue, and you can help by contacting your congressman and 2 senators and urging them to sign on to this letter. You can find more information out on the NAAOP website at www.naaop.org. Second issue I wanted to discuss briefly was the appropriations for fiscal year 2013. Prior to the congressional recess, both the House and Senate did in fact pass a continuing resolution that funds the federal government past March 27th, which was the deadline for when the federal government would have shut down had Congress not passed that legislation. The President signed the bill, and so the federal agencies will remain open and will be funded through the end of this fiscal year on September 30th. That's good news all around. The funding levels are pretty severe. They did improve the situation for the National Institutes of Health by about $70 million by adding that much money back in. But that pales in comparison to the sequester cuts, the across-the-board cuts that impact the National Institutes of Health to the tune of about $1.5 billion in reduced spending this year from last year. One more issue about the sequestration is that the 2% cut to the O&P Medicare fee schedule is going into effect as of April 1. And so you can expect the O&P fees that you receive will be reduced by 2%. That's been coming for some time, and ultimately that's now in effect. Finally, on the budget issues, Congress continues to work on finding a budget for the next fiscal year 2014, in addition to forecasting what the budget scenario will look like for the next 10-year period. Again, prior to the congressional recess, the House and Senate both voted to pass budgets. Those budgets are starkly different, and so there is a real question as to whether the House and Senate can arrive at a joint budget resolution, which is anticipated every year but seldom achieved. The House budget aims to restructure the Medicare program into a defined contribution plan rather than an entitlement. And it would remove about $750 billion over 10 years from the Medicaid program, which is a huge cut. The House also would not increase revenue at all in their budget. The Senate bill is very different. The Senate bill would raise about $1 trillion in new tax revenue, mainly by closing loopholes and taxing the wealthy. And it would cut about $250 to $275 billion over 10 years in Medicare, primarily through, as they describe it, cuts that will not impact beneficiaries in a significant way, or not harm beneficiaries. Of course, that's in the eye of the beholder. The Senate bill would also raise about spend about $100 billion on stimulus spending to jumpstart the economy, and it would largely leave Medicaid untouched. Again, whether they're able to agree to a joint budget resolution is very much in flux right now, and when Congress does return from their congressional recess, there'll be an awful lot to talk about in that regard. Thanks so much, and we'll be back in touch the next update. Thanks.